Good afternoon. It's Lee Cassidy from Tactile Technology with our SMESec segment. So this is going to be every day, 12:30 for 15 minutes, talking about cybersecurity delivered in plain English. So our session today is all about the National Cybersecurity Centre's 10 steps to a more safe business. So let's talk about our first item. So number one on the list is information risk regime. So the idea is that you actually look at your complete business and identify where all the information resides. Things like customer information, information about products and services, and everything that you've got that you need to run your business from an information perspective, where it resides. Then what you've got to do is look at how secure each one of them is and how you can protect each one of them. Is that, information that's sat in some kind of application that you need to back up, or is it specific data within a database you need to protect? But the idea is to look at what you've got, get a bit of a risk review of it, so understand the threat. If you lost that information, what would happen? If this information was actually taken out into the public, what would be, the result of that? You know, is the impact going to be on you reputationally? Is it going to be impact financially? So look at that information risk and understand where you sit and set a regime about it. The next one is secure configuration. This is actually for a number of areas. So one of them is making sure that your end user desktops, your Windows or Mac laptops or desktops, have a secure configuration set on them, but also that the network itself is secured as well, to make sure that people can't get into your systems easily and be able to access information without any control. So fixing that configuration, ensuring you've got a secure configuration, including things like passwords. What we're going to do on Friday is go on and we're going to go into more depth. The next one is network security. Are we controlling access to our network? Are we controlling the network internally as well? So ensuring that the actual network that you utilize to connect all your devices, whether that's a local area network, so the network that connects each of your individual computers together within your office or building, or the network that connects between multiple buildings or between home workers and or other members of staff, is secure as well. So we're looking at controlling who can actually get onto that network and the devices that are allowed to connect to it, and securing the traffic there. And again, we'll cover all of these off one by one, starting on Friday with number one. Next one is managed user privileges. This is actually really important because if all of your users have got a high level of privileges for their local machine, it's quite easy for a hacker, once they've got hold of the details of that one user, they can actually go in and take control of that machine. It's even worse if a user's also got administration privileges for your email infrastructure that's set out in Microsoft's Office 365 platform, because they can go in there and adjust things however they choose to. If they're an IT employee, with a larger business and they've got administrative rights across the whole of your infrastructure, even worse. They can use those privileges once they've actually got access to that user's system to be able to do anything they choose to across the whole of your set of infrastructure, every single asset. So this is a key area, and we'll talk about that more next week. The next one is end user education and awareness. And this is really important. You need to ensure that your users are aware of what might happen. Understanding what they're seeing within an email that comes in and what it's asking them to do, making sure it is real before they actually click on a button and put in any credentials and things. And it's a real challenge because a lot of these emails nowadays, when they're sent in, they look real. There is actually something that's happening at the moment, which is quite new in the last couple of weeks. People using a thing called email thread hacking or hijacking. So what they'll do is they'll take control of one of your PC desktops, and then they'll actually utilize that to actually get into your email system and find a particular email they want to actually become a part of. And they become a thread in an email thread between multiple people. And when that email comes through to an individual, they believe it more that it's actually that person because it's actually in a thread of multiple emails that have come to them. So making the end users aware of this and educating them around phishing campaigns and testing as well. You know, you can actually set up test regimes to actually send phishing campaigns and see what the response is of your users. And it's again something we can help with if you're interested in doing that. But education of your users and awareness around cybersecurity is really important. Some key areas are password management as well. And again, each one of these will go into more depth starting on Friday. The next one is incident management. So, what do you do when you have an incident? What is the process? Who's responsible? How do you deal with it? How do you control it? What are you going to do to actually manage that incident where you've got some kind of break-in into your server infrastructure, one of your end users' desktops? What you're going to do to actually manage what's happening and deal with it. And in the framework I talked about yesterday, there are a couple of key things. One is detecting you've got something. Second, responding to that. And third is how do you recover from that incident. And again, next week we'll come on to this incident management and what you can do about responding to an incident and dealing with it. Next one is some form of malware protection. You'd be surprised how many people don't have any malware protection, so no antivirus or malware protection on their machines. And it's so simple for a hacker to actually take control and access those machines in that case. So malware protection is really important, but malware protection can come in different forms. And I'll go through each one of those next week, talking about the different areas because there are some specific end user um, endpoint protection technology that work differently, as well as your traditional antivirus technologies. So we'll come on to that next week as well. The next one is monitoring. And this is a really key thing because, again, how do you detect if something's happening and be able to respond to it with your incident management plan if you don't actually know it's happening? And there are so many organizations that don't have any monitoring in place to understand what's happening. You know, they're not monitoring what's happening on their end user desktops or their network or their server infrastructure so that a hacker can come in and do whatever they like without actually them knowing about it. And in sometimes, you know, you've got very large organizations, enterprise organizations that have been hacked. And it's 6 to 12 months before anybody knows about it because they didn't know and the only time that they know about it is when that information that's been stolen gets out into the wild. And there's some information being released recently from Samsung, and this is a lot of their authentication mechanisms for Samsung infrastructure and services, and also some source code and things from Samsung. So that's quite scary. If Samsung didn't know that had happened, and that information is now in the wild. So monitoring is really important for you to know what's happening with your end user desktops and your network and server infrastructure. And again, we can come on to that next week and give you a bit more information. Well, the following week, as we're doing 15 minutes for each. Number 9 on the list is removable media controls. And this is quite important for restricting employees who may be disgruntled, you've given them their notice, and they want to effectively take all of your customer data because they want to set up on their own, they want to take information to a competitor. Whatever they're going to do, they're going to have to put it onto some kind of removable media to take it. And you need to ensure that these USB ports can't be used to actually put a thumb drive in or a USB drive and copy all of your crown jewels of your business onto intellectual property, customer details, things that you don't really want to go outside the business. So ensuring those removable media devices are controlled is really important as well. And again, we'll come into more detail about that in the following weeks. And finally, this is quite an important one because the way that we do things has changed our behaviors. We have a lot of people now that are actually working from home. And without having some kind of home and mobile worker policy, how do you ensure that those users are supported both from an IT support perspective, but also from a security perspective? Recently, we've spoken to 3 different businesses, and 3 of them, the actual attack that came in and breached their systems was always from a home worker. So home workers are using traditionally a work laptop or potentially a home laptop at home on an unsecured network. So it's an unsecured Wi-Fi network set up by the homeowner using some kind of consumer broadband technology. Virgin Media, one of the network providers, EE and Vodafone offer them, as well as some of the larger ones like Sky offer that. But they're not designed for home workers. The security is not to the level that you really need it for a home worker. And also, if they've got VPN access then back into the core infrastructure, it's quite easy for an end user to be effectively uh, over hijacked by the hacker, and then that used to get into the core infrastructure of your business. The real problem is that could then spread on to a partner. So if you're working with a partner organization, and again, you've got access to their systems, because, day in, day out, you're working with them closely and working with their systems. Again, it's a way for a hacker to get through your home worker into your core network and then into that partner network. And when the hackers are actually looking at who they're going to target, in some cases, they look at these partner relationships and see who might be a softer target to go for to get into those systems. So those 10 items: information risk regime, secure configuration, network security, managed user privileges, user education and awareness, incident management, in malware protection, monitoring, removal media controls, and home mobile worker policy are the 10 key things that you need to be thinking about to actually ensure that your business is secure. And we need to be looking at all 10 of them. All of them in place, you're going to have a much better foundation for security. Again, if you've got any questions about any one of these areas or want anything clarified, please drop me a message, drop me an email, drop me a message through LinkedIn, whichever you choose to do. I'll help in any area. But like I say, I'm going to go through each one of them in more detail, starting on Friday with information risk regime, and then we're going to move on to secure configuration on Monday of next week. So we're going to work through each one of those, covering each particular area to make sure you understand what you can do about it and how you can improve things for your business. The idea of this is to make sure that you understand what cybersecurity means to you and your business, and you understand it in plain English, because we don't want to teach you Klingon. Thanks ever so much for joining me today. Hopefully that was useful. It's a little bit shorter than normal, just 12 minutes, but it's just covering off those 10 items to make sure you understood, what the National Cybersecurity Centre are trying to promote for you to protect your business. These all then move on to other areas, and what we're going to cover tomorrow is we're going to have a session on Cyber Essentials and Plus. So Cyber Essentials is a certification program that's designed by the National Cyber Security Centre to help your business prove that it's actually secure, and you can then use that to prove you're secure to business partners that you may be going out first time for, getting some kind of contract with, but also your existing partners. Plus is actually a step on from that to actually verify that all the information and things are true. We've got Pete Rosinski from Assure Technical to go through that with us. On Thursday, we've got Pete back again, and we're actually going to talk about IASME governance, which is an alternative to one of the programs a lot of people look at, especially MSPs. They do ISO 27001, which is a security process piece. But actually, IASME governance gives you a more practical way of doing this and looking at it from a more holistic perspective, and actually might give you a better way of securing your business. Then on Friday, we kick off with step one of our 10 steps going into information risk regime in more depth. So if you want to join me again tomorrow, come along at 12:30 to 12:45, where we're going to talk about Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essential Plus with Pete Rosinski of Assure Technical to go through what that means to you, how it all fits together. And again, looking forward to seeing you then. So thank you very much for joining me today, and I look forward to seeing you next time. Thanks.